Welcome to the TNC Random Fandom podcast. We are here to have fun and talk all things pop culture, collecting, and nerd culture in general. Make sure you join the conversation during our live stream with our most excellent hosts, Craig Borden and Tommy Mock. Let the shenanigans begin.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this lovely evening of TNC Random Fandom. If you have found us on Instagram this evening, I'm even more happy because I finally got it working for this podcast. So, and once again, I am your host, Craig Borden. I'm here with my most excellent of co-hosts, Tommy Mock. How the hell are you, buddy?
I am doing just fine. God, it's been forever since I seen you. I mean,
It's been like barely 24 hours since we had a splendid time at the Village Gate Toy Show here in Rochester. Met a lot of people out there, had a great time. I have too many business cards to go through that we got to, get some people out here as far as some guests and whatnot. And it's also spawned many of other ideas on places we need to go, Tommy. So,
Definitely.
like I said, I got all sorts of cards here from local places. And
yeah, I was picking them up and I was just handing them to you. So it's like, you have the bag, so I'm just going to let you have them.
Yeah. Put it in the bag, but they are made it to my desk. So all of you that did have the pleasure of talking with Tommy and I about all things nerdy and toy collecting and everything yesterday, I greatly appreciate the shout out and talking with us and everything. So we'll get you on the show soon here. But tonight, Tommy, tell everybody what your idea was for us to be chit-chatting about this evening.
So tonight is our pseudo Christmas episode. It seems only appropriate since we're after Thanksgiving and now we are truly in the holiday season. So I figured, why not have an episode on favorite and maybe not so favorite Christmas movies and Christmas television shows.
Yep.
And I know we're probably going to dig deep in a few of them, and we're probably not going to scratch the surface like we did with 80s heavy metal. But I think that we have a lot of to choose from here, and maybe even some new ones that people haven't heard of before, or maybe have heard of, and see if everything jives with it.
Yep.
So before we start, I'm going to ask the one question that I started this with, and is regardless of what Bruce Willis says, do you consider Die Hard, and even Die Hard 2, for that matter, a Christmas movie? Craig Borden.
I think it is, just for the hell of it, because he was trying to get his kid a present. That was the whole premise of the movie, and he couldn't get there because this jackass tried kidnapping everybody and holding the building hostage. So just saying. And not to mention, there's all the Christmas jokes of the ho ho ho. Now I have a machine gun and all this kind of stuff. So if it's not a Christmas movie, then what is it?
Exactly. So I would say I would go with the thought process of it happens during Christmas. There is quite a bit of Christmas references. I would say it's probably a Christmas action film. How's that?
I agree with that statement. I think that's the best way of saying it. This is about on par with what we tried to categorize the Blues Brothers movie last week on our SNL show. What is it? Car chase movie? Sing along? Pick one. I have no idea. But how can I'm going to raise another question for you on this whole thing too. How is Die Hard anything different than, I don't know if you saw this. I haven't seen it. It's on my list of movies to watch. Violent Night with that guy from that plays Santa that's from the Stranger Things thing.
Yes.
Any different than a Christmas horror movie? Is it any different than 8 Crazy Nights where Adam Sandler's character is a giant monster jackass? It's everybody. Bad Santa is one of my favorite Christmas movies. Just stupid things like that. Is it really anything in that ballpark that different, or am I just a bah humbug kind of person? I have no idea.
So you kind of bring up a good point. There are other movies that are considered Christmas movies that don't necessarily follow the happy and joyful. There's Christmas horror movies like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and there's movies like Krampus, which I actually absolutely enjoyed. Loved Krampus. That was a great one. But then you have, some of the ones, like you said, Bad Santa. One movie that I actually enjoy and doesn't matter what people think of me for liking this movie, but Bad Moms Christmas. I love Bad Moms
That was
Christmas.
hilarious.
It's a great movie. So
it's just got a great collective of characters, period, and them extending the Bad Moms thing into that. I thought it was great. I really do. I just think there's some fun there. But continue.
So is there any so when we talk about these movies and we start digging into them, is there any criteria that you are going to exclude from your own list or or whatnot? Because I have a few.
I can't exclude too many because some of my favorite holiday movies, period, are like Harold and Kumar Christmas. For one,
Yeah.
I love that movie, and it's more or less just because I love those characters. I think they're hilarious. Like I mentioned, for every good movie that I would say is the typical Christmas movie, I have easily another flip flop to that, where it's a Bad Santa or some comedy movie like that. But even just to point that out, even somewhere like A Nightmare Before Christmas is dancing on that line between being a clear Halloween movie and a Christmas Carol at the end of the day, right?
Now that and that I was actually going to ask you about that. Would you consider that a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie? Because
Yeah,
it
go ahead.
comes they bring it out during Halloween, so maybe it's that kind of bridge between the two holiday seasons, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a very good one for that point because I'm going to raise an ante up this one, and I mentioned I would love to see this on a previous episode. The Haunted Mansion in at both Disney World and Disneyland, they convert this time of year to be the Nightmare Before Christmas Haunted Mansion, basically, and they kind of retool some of the stuff. And from what I hear, it's really cool. But at the end of the day, if they're doing it between Halloween and Christmas, it makes it more of a Christmas thing, isn't it?
Right. True. I mean, it ultimately the whole movie revolves around Christmas. So, I guess I could put it in that whole Die Hard, genre.
It's
if
in
you
that
will.
odd category. It doesn't have a full home in the holiday season. I did have one I wanted to use as a bridge for the holiday we just got out of, with a great abundance of food and everything, and pigged out personally and had a few too many beers. That is Thanksgiving just got over with. And one of my favorite, this is the time of the season movies, is 100% Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with John Candy and Steve Martin. And
Great
same kind of thing. They're
movie.
trying to get home for, Thanksgiving, but there is a few things in that, with it being snowy, crappy weather, that you could make the argument that it could have been just as easily, a regular, Christmas, New Year's Eve time frame holiday movie. Didn't have to be Thanksgiving.
Great movie. No, you're spot on. That is a movie that is on that's being played in our house yearly and multiple times. Before, during, and after. Because we love that movie. We're Steve Martin fans here in this house. We are John Candy fans for 1,000,000%. But yeah, no, that's a great movie. I would have to say,
Every road trip I think I go on, I feel like I'm quoting that movie at some point without even trying it. Because you're going to see some jackass going, they're going the wrong way, constantly, or whatever it is. How the hell do they know what way we're going? They must be drunk. Exactly. From the "those aren't pillows" thing to this, that, whatever it might be. There's just so many stupid scenes in that movie that make it, to me, the prototypical road trip movie.
Right,
if you were going to make the template, that is the template.
and I would have to say that if you go back to the movie Tommy Boy, you see a lot of the
Same essence.
them. Yeah, they play a good, I should say, pay a good homage to that movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Great movie.
Yeah. So, but to that point, we are, now back to obviously going toward, Christmas, Hanukkah, all those kind of wonderful things for the season here. And as we move forward, like I said, the unfortunate catch, and I feel bad for some of the other people here that have other religions and everything, because there is just so many Christmas movies and not too many other ones as far as being here in the US. But to that point, there is just so many of them. And like I said, I tend to steer toward the comedies a little bit more. So even like a movie like Scrooged, to me, is taking those same kind of level of characters that we talked about, and putting Bill Murray in the middle of A Christmas Carol, which was hysterical to that point because it's Bill frickin' Murray. But to that point, I usually steer more toward those kind of movies, Tommy, this time of year, because a lot of it is the holidays kind of suck here in New York. It's cold already. We got our first snow. I'm repping the Bills today because we just had a crazy snow-filled evening last night.
Go Bills!
100% that it's the holiday season. Everybody's stressed out. Work sucks. I need an escape. I need my Scrooge. I need the Christmas Vacations. Those kind of movies are what usually I gravitate toward, Tommy. So go ahead and pick it up from there, or what you end up gravitating toward, or if you want to pick up that one, go for it.
So you'd gravitate towards more of the darker side of Christmas, darker comedies. I'll say dark comedies.
I'll say comedies. Some of them happen to be dark.
No, I agree with you. Christmas Vacation is number one tops in this house. It's a movie that gets quoted year in, year out, day in, day out, 365 days, because there's not a time that doesn't go by where Karen asked, "Hey, where do you want me to put this?" And I obviously say, "Bend over and I'll show you." So
Moon River, to quote another Chevy Chase movie.
So that's yes, that. But as far as like traditional movies, there are movies that I make it a point to watch. Now, again, Christmas Vacation is on all the time, every time. They do it, just like with A Christmas Story, they do 24 hours of, Christmas Vacation. And that's just to give, the employees of the networks a day off, and they just put it on heavy rotation, and it's easy enough to do.
And it's going to get ratings because it's that time of year where everybody's going to watch it.
But I will still go onto a streaming service and pick it out, because I don't want the commercials and I don't want any of the cuss words, cut out of it, because that's part of the joy of it. You need to hear, Chevy Chase talking about, being the jolliest bunch of assholes this side of the nut, the funny farm. So
I got to give you the Cousin Eddie story from one of my friends from college, if you don't mind me interrupting.
Go ahead.
Seconds. So, 4 years of college at Alfred State here in New York. My buddy Josh, bless his heart, would be getting ready for the, go home for the basically what ends up being 3 weeks for, the time we go home from college and whatnot. So, and mind you, everybody, I'm 40, so it's been just a bit. So it was there. He'd be walking up and down the corridor in the hallway, and he's finally getting done with classes. He's ready to go. And he'd be like, "Merry Christmas, you fuckers. Shitter's full. I'm leaving." And so to that point, all I pictured was 100% Cousin Eddie sitting there trying to clean out his septic tank in his RV in the front yard, and then it ends up sparking a huge problem later in the movie. It's just kind of how it worked. So there you go.
But no, that's exactly what it is those are the movies that we're talking about, the ones that become part of our family traditions, whether it be quoting constantly, whether it's it's a must watch at any point in time. That's what I kind of put as a criteria for my list of movies. So Christmas Vacation being the first one, but there is a movie that I actually make it a point to watch every year just because it's nostalgic, is White Christmas, the old Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye. That is a beautiful movie. It's it's old Hollywood, and that's what I wanted. That, to me, I love that movie. Just like It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life is okay, but it's not White Christmas.
So I think it's funny because one of the things I made sure I pulled up at before this whole thing was, I knew we were going to talk, but I didn't want to read off the rankings for what Rotten Tomatoes basically calls their top 100 Christmas movies. I just want to point this out here. They have 11 is Die Hard. Just saying. So, of course. But just in front of that, the one you had just mentioned It's a Wonderful Life, 1946, like you mentioned.
Life, not wife.
Yes, it's a Wonderful Life. Sorry, just say.
But the wife is wonderful.
Although there's your spoof that Mel Brooks never wrote. But to that point, there is something to say for having those holiday classics like that you can just go to, takes you to a time and place. And there are so many of them, whether it's A Miracle on 34th Street, It's a Wonderful Life, the one you had mentioned, so on and so forth. There's just, like I said, there's a reason this list that I'm looking at here is 100 movies deep. Just saying.
Right. And so
I forgot about a more recent one too. I died laughing watching this one a couple of years ago. They did the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special or holiday special where they kidnapped Kevin Bacon.
Okay, so that's another part of my criteria of ones that I'm excluding. I'm excluding movies or not movies or one-off Christmas specials to include the Star Wars holiday special because they're just, to me, they were like
Happy
money
Life Day
grabs
to you, my friend. Yeah, there you go.
But there are some really good newer movies that some people may not be aware of. Like Karen and I just watched the Nutcrackers with Ben Stiller.
I have not watched that one yet. I plan on watching it though because I love Ben Stiller.
It's actually a really cute movie. It's a really good, make you feel good movie, and it follows all of the tropes of a Christmas movie. But it will tug on your heartstrings. It is a good movie. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but it is a really good. I highly recommend it. It may not be for everybody, but it's not what my other part of my criteria is. I exclude wholeheartedly all Hallmark movies. And the reason why I say I exclude
I got a good one.
all Hallmark movies is because they are the same movie, and
it just happens to be placed in Christmas, Hanukkah time frame.
Exactly. It's like, how many times, how many different ways can you tell the same exact story of the exec that had to go back home to her small podunk town and the boyfriend that it's like Sweet Home Alabama Christmas style. So yeah, so that's one of the things that I exclude from that. And as a matter of fact, before we end, I will go through some of the social media stuff that we got.
And we got a bunch this time. And thank you for the few people that are listening. We greatly appreciate you. Come on, chime in wherever you're listening. We'd love to hear your comments. So go ahead.
But one of the main movies that and you mentioned it too, is Scrooged. I love Scrooged. Scrooged was it's not kind of. It's a Christmas Carol within Christmas Carol. Because Bill Murray is a TV executive and he's putting on a live version of, Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. And he happens to be visited by three ghosts. And so if you are not familiar with Scrooged, I highly recommend Scrooged as well. If you are a Bill Murray fan,
it should be on the list anyway. It's like missing out on watching Groundhog Day on Groundhog Day. Just saying.
Yep.
You just gotta visit Punxsutawney Phil every once in a while. That's all. So I got a decent one here that is kind of dancing on the line like we were talking about with Trading Places is one of my favorite ones that is always on this time of year with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. The whole point is it's happening this time of year more than anything, but it's not really a Christmas movie, but it ends up being a good comedy set around this time of year in December. So then again, having a movie with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy in it is just gold to begin with. So there's that.
So you're saying that Trading Places, in your opinion, is a Christmas movie just because of the time frame that it's set in?
Setting.
Okay.
Correct. And to that point, it is I'll say an uplifting story at the end of the day. So, things all worked out for Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, regardless of how they got there. Didn't work out so good for Waldorf and Mortimer, but and to that point, I was surprised that one was on the list of Rotten Tomatoes Christmas movies, highly ranked. and it was number 22, and it's above one, and I can't believe it was above. And then another one in that same mindset here, Gremlins.
I will give you Gremlins. I will give you Gremlins. Gremlins, because it was based.
The Mogwai was
set
actually
in
a Christmas gift.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I thought that was kind of funny.
I will definitely say, yeah, I will give you Gremlins. That's a good one. So where do you stand on like the classic television shows? Like obviously we were young and we're getting the reruns, and they still show the reruns. So I'm talking like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Where do you stand on those? Right. Where do you stand on those?
To me, they have to be there. And to that point, I love sharing them, especially on Thanksgiving and everything. I'm at my parents' house. My brother's got 2 younger kids in the ballpark. I believe Zach is 4, Peter's 6. So they're in that ballpark of like just finally sitting and watching good TV shows to the point where it's something you can actually, it's not just Bluey and, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and stuff like that. Right. So Peter was old enough to really appreciate another movie I know we'll talk about, and that's Elf. We'll get to that. But we also watched Rudolph was on. Perfect. Score. And that even sold some of the silly stuff of what happened in Elf, because he goes, that looks just like the Rudolph for some of those jokes and things like that. So that was really funny too to that point. But I do think that is part of the holiday tradition, just like, Charlie Brown Christmas Carol or Christmas and all these kind of things like that. There's another one that's always a great one to have. And go ahead.
I'm glad you mentioned Charlie Brown, because this is something that we're starting to see now as far as studios and streaming services buying the rights to certain intellectual properties. So when it comes to Charlie Brown, Apple owns the rights to everything, Snoopy, Peanuts, and everything. So if you want to see a Charlie Brown Christmas and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and all of these other, Peanuts related shows, you have to have Apple Plus. So how do you feel when some of these beloved Christmas movies and Christmas intellectual properties are now being bought up by these streaming services, forcing people to actually have to get them in order to enjoy them, unlike, other than going out to a store and buying a DVD? What's a DVD? But
what's that? Physical? Anything real?
Physical media.
That was something I thought was hilarious too. That when we were at the toy show, there was so many people selling old VHS and DVDs there. I couldn't believe it. I understand completely why you would be, but I just thought it was kind of ironic and stuff. At a toy show, they were seeing people that literally had just movies and TV shows. But to that point, Tommy, this is one of the things I think that's showing the symptom of all the wonderful things that we started getting in the post Netflix era, and this is the bad side of it. To that point, I just felt like I caved the other day having to pay for HBO, but I got it for 6 months at $2.99. Okay,
right.
The Apple didn't exactly have that, and there's not enough things for me to even pay for it on there. There's one show I die loving to watch on Apple TV, and that's that. I don't know if you've seen it, For All Mankind. It's that Space Odyssey tweak on history.
No.
It's basically based on the fact that if the Russians beat us to moon instead of, and then it just what that tangent in history would look like, and they're actually in the 90s now, so it's a bunch of seasons. It's really cool. But that's like the only thing I care about watching on Apple, so I'm not going to pay for, no offense with only having a 14 almost 15-year-old to watch Charlie Brown. I'll wait until it's on, just happens to be on basic cable and whatnot, and watch it again. And to that point, I just can't believe that in the midst of the world we live in right now, that everybody's fighting over all this stuff so badly, and that a few of them just haven't gotten together and went, you know what, we can't beat Netflix on our own.
And you know what it is, right? And you know what it is? It's because they're making money off of people like you and I who love that nostalgia. They want those old movies because, again, and we say this when we talk to each other and we talk to other people, it brings us back to that place, that time in our life when everything was good and fresh and new, and people are profiting off of it. And Hey,
that's
if I
part of
would
the
have thought of
season
it, I
too
would
is
have
all
done it.
profit.
Right. But not to go off on a tangent like that, but
Correct.
I just wanted your opinion on when streaming services decide that they're going to buy out an intellectual property that is beloved and to force the hand of the consumer.
And to that point, I'm just going to take this conversation and bring us back because we actually had this
Thank you.
problem the other day. Peyton wanted to watch The Grinch, not the new one, or not the one with Jim Carrey or the most recent animated one. She wanted to watch the true 1966 Grinch cartoon, full musical, right?
Right.
And it was hard to find. Like I finally found it, but it took me digging to get to it.
Oh, no doubt.
The Jim Carrey one doesn't exist anywhere. Like on streaming, you got to wait till it's on TV, like we did the other night, and record it, and then we are going to watch it on the DVR digital one that is on Hulu. So, but to that point, she wanted to watch it, and we couldn't find it, so it was really hard. And those, to me, that's one of those things that one is 100% like you were talking about, part of the tradition. It's not Christmas without
without the
figuring
Grinch.
out if we have the roast beast.
No, you are 100%, and that's the scary part of this is that people, and again, you can't fault them for wanting to take to be richer, but at the same time, you're tugging at the heartstrings of people who want to have that escape.
Well, to that point, what's Christmas without my fun danglers and my wazzles and oh my god, the noise. So
exactly, there you go. And the Grinch is all about commercialism.
So I'll bring another one and stack some other. I'll say, as we slowly progress back to, I'll say what we like watching as adults. I'll give you the 50-50 one that parents and children can watch no problems, and that's one of the many versions of the Christmas Carol that has been done. And the Muppets had a Christmas Carol. So okay, great. Got Charles Dickens, Muppets.
Yep.
Boom.
Honestly, I love it. I Christmas Carol is one of my favorites. As a matter of fact, I was going to ask this question: who was your favorite Ebenezer Scrooge? And because there's so many to choose from,
it's hard.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but Michael Caine was Ebenezer in the Muppets.
I think you're correct. I'm going to have to look that one up. I want to say you're correct with that. But I just had it in front of me, of course.
Some people can go old school.
Yes, it was Michael Caine.
Off the top of my head. Thank you.
Point.
Useless knowledge. Useless knowledge. All right.
You must have been on a trivia show at some point. So, but yeah, that was one of them. And see, that's the hard thing for me on that whole thing, because I don't know if I could place one, because I just had that character, of what that character means to me, so etched and burned in my brain that. And everybody kind of plays it the same way. So it's really hard for me to pick out a specific person playing that character, because it's not a person playing that character to me. It's just that character.
Right. So I will challenge you this. I have a copy on DVD of the George C. Scott version of A Christmas Carol, where he plays Ebenezer Scrooge. And if nobody knows who George C. Scott is, he's the man that played Patton in the movie Patton. But if you don't know who Patton is, read your history books. But one of my all-time favorites, though, is a black and white one with Alistair Sims. And Alistair Sims, you can get, it's the same character like you said, but you can get some nuances from each actor. They put their little bit of a spin and a twist on it, and sometimes it just gives you an even deeper appreciation for that character. And how they can emote, and how their redemption becomes real. So, but yeah, I challenge you to look up or watch the Alistair Sims and then watch the George C. Scott version, and you get back to me on that. There's your homework.
There's the homework, everybody. So glad you're listening. Like I said, chime in with your favorite Christmas movies, holiday movies, whatever it might be, to chat with us here this evening as we're live doing this show. And we see plenty of you watching, so please come on, join the conversation. That's the whole point of having a live stream, is a conversation. So on that note, Tommy, I want to just have a little bit of fun here in the middle of the show as we, talk kids show or kids ones, TV shows, movies, pick up, and some adult ones, obviously with the horror ones. Give me a deep cut. Is there a movie that stands out to you that is a Christmas movie that you would think that would be like, wow, where did Craig or Tommy figure that one out? Because I have one here that I think is a very stupid one, and I actually own this DVD and I watch it regularly.
So I'm gonna leave that one to you because I have a feeling I know what it is.
Oh, I doubt you do.
But I don't know if you do. But I will give you 2 deep cuts.
Okay.
And you have to like find these movies on one of the like free.
This one I don't even think is on a streaming service.
So there's a movie called Santa Claus the Movie, which had Dudley Moore back in the 80s. And that was...
Is that the one with this souped up sleigh by any chance? I just remember watching this one where they had to feed almost look like freaking candy sticks into the sleigh to keep it moving.
John Lithgow was in this movie.
Okay, I don't know if that was the same one, but go for it.
He plays the bad guy. And then there's a movie called Prancer. So also for...
Don't know that one either.
Yeah,
so you stumped me.
There you go. So
there it is. So here's my 90s stump. Here's my 90s stump for you. I'm just gonna list this cast for you. You're gonna be like, really? Nicolas Cage, Dana Carvey, John Lovitz. It's called Trapped in Paradise.
I've never ever heard of that movie.
So the stupid part of this movie, and this is where in my opinion, it's a perfect holiday season movie. It goes from them being villains to good guys by the end of the movie, because they actually stumbled onto this town where they got stuck into, and they're kind of thieves, really kind of like Three Stooges level, right? They're shitty thieves. So they happen to stumble through this town because they were having car trouble, and they realize that this bank in this town is like the poorest security of any bank anywhere in the United States that you humanly possibly could get into. It's like the guy that's the one inept guard in the whole bank is like 9,000 years old. So they decide to rob the bank, but then they couldn't get out of this town no matter what they did. Basically just bad juju and karma is keeping them in this town. And then they end up being put up because they basically... their car ran off the road, lit on fire, all this kind of crap. They ended up getting put up by the people that own the bank on Christmas Eve. And they end up obviously having the moral dilemma and all this kind of stuff, and then turned around. So it was actually, like I said, it was a fun, stupid movie, but
I'm going to have to look that up.
I can't find it. I can't find it on any streaming. I had the DVD of it, though. I physically own it.
You have the physical media,
and there is the reason to have DVDs, kids. Because some things just get lost to history, and that movie was hilarious. Just saying. That was a deep cut, because I've never heard of that movie before. You played really well with those ones too, and I think I stumbled on that one purely because it said Nicolas Cage was in it. But now Nicolas Cage, there was a time, kids, that Nicolas Cage wasn't in every movie on the planet. He did a normal amount of movies.
Oh, so we actually got a comment from Kate.
There we go.
Kate says, "Love Actually."
I got you.
It's the most classic. It's the most classic Christmas movie in Britain. I promise I watch it every year, multiple times. You know what, Kate? Honestly, that was one of the movies that I brought up because it is on syndication, but we also own that on DVD, and partially they have to cut a lot of that movie. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. They have to cut some of that movie out because there is nudity in it and there is words, but at the same time,
still a good movie.
It's a great movie. It's a great movie, especially when you have a family member. It's like, oh, let's all watch a movie together. What do you want to watch? And somebody says, oh, Love Actually. And then they put the DVD in, and we got the kids, and then all of a sudden you see, and they're like,
remote.
Hey.
This thing isn't fast forwarding quick enough. Tommy, I just found, because like I said, I've been perusing this 100 movie list, and I just found your movie Prancer from 1989 on here as number 80, and somehow ranked just in front of the movie Home Alone, the original one. And is that because maybe the original Home Alone movie is more of a kid enjoying torturing adults?
Probably.
Maybe.
Probably.
I don't know. Possibly. But I'm sorry, Kate, that somehow is and even in front of number 85, Love Actually. And mine is still not on this list because I was curious it was.
But so when I was doing some research on this too, and I knew that there were some, one-off kind of Home Alone movies, like there was a 3 and a 4, but there's a whole series of movies, and I've looked at them and I'm like, okay, I remember forcing myself to watch Home Alone 3, which has absolutely nothing to do with Macaulay Culkin or anything, but so I will exclude all of the Home Alone movies past 2, because 1 and 2 are classics in themselves. They are what I would refer to as a modern classic, but being that they're in the 90s now, they're pretty much retro. So, but those are great movies though. Those are fun movies. Those are movies that when they're on and you watch them, or you have them on as background noise and you can quote the movie,
Constantly.
100%. But that goes into another series of movies, the Santa Claus movie, or Santa Claus.
I was wondering if we were going to get to that one with Tim Allen, I'm assuming,
yes.
Correct?
Right. And he is in all of those movies, to include the series that's on Disney Plus, the Santa Clauses. And if you
had some good villains in it too, with Martin Short and some of the others and whatnot. So that was fun. Not to mention Tim Allen. That was peak Tim Allen when the first one came out.
Mm-hmm. And but those movies stand on their own, and they were able to make sequels that actually made sense. And it
for as much of a cash grab it probably really was, but that's besides the point.
But as far as like a franchise, the Santa Claus really made a good franchise on that, because they built on this whole idea of, it's a contract. There's a clause in the contract. There's a Mrs. Claus. There's an escape clause. So I would have to say that as far as franchise Christmas movies go, they did it right. They did it. Yes. They kept all of the main characters the same people. They didn't recast anybody. I think that was pretty good. So
no, I agree. And as far as you don't have those kind of things for something like this, as far as the like a Christmas movie, you don't make franchises out of a one-day a year holiday event. So I give them credit for finding a way to make that work in that reality that they've created for those movies, that this is all the stuff that happens in the North Pole.
Right. Right. Oh, we got another comment from Mary Flynn.
Yep, I'm posting it up right now for it. Yep, there we go. And that is very amusing. That was a good one too, with Jack Frost. That was the one. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was the Martin Short character.
That was Martin Short. Yes, yes.
I love Martin Short. So, but that's the Saturday Night Live-isms and things we were talking about last week, and just my level of cheeky shenanigans in general. So, but it was fun. I agree.
So speaking of the streaming services.
Yes.
There's 2 movies, and they were, let's just put it this way. They were actually pretty good. I actually had it on in the background while I was working today. One, they're called The Christmas Chronicles with Kurt Russell.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen that one. The first one. I didn't know there was a second.
There was a second one. Yep. There's a second one. And
learned something new today.
And the second one came out maybe 2 years ago.
Now those were Netflix only ones or something, if I recall.
Netflix exclusive. So if you have Netflix, I do recommend that, because it's a cute story, and it puts a little bit of a spin on Santa Claus with Kurt Russell as Santa Claus. And I won't
delude too
spoil
much
it
on that one.
right, but it's
On the streaming
really
service exclusive thing, I have another one for you that was at the time HBO Max exclusive when I watched this the first time, and it's called 8-Bit Christmas. It was a Neil Patrick Harris, and
I was going to bring that one up.
I died laughing with this one because I remember that. Wanting a Nintendo is the whole premise of this, and they're sold out everywhere. Being able to try getting a regular original OG NES with just Mario and Duck Hunt. That's the whole premise of the movie. And then the one kid got the Power Glove.
Oh yeah,
down the street. So
we're gonna have
very amusing.
We're gonna have to do video. We're gonna have to do a video game centric theme, whether it be movies or
horrible crossovers like ET.
Yeah, something that was like like a movie that's based on a video game or very video game centric.
100% get to that at some
like
point, my
The
friend.
Wizard. But
yeah, but I thought that was a really good movie at the end of the day, and I enjoyed it. So that was another one as far as I'll say Netflix or streaming service exclusives. That was one that I actually found. I enjoyed it and I really loved it.
No, and me too. Honestly, because that reminded me of, again, bringing you back to a time. I remember when I was a kid and that Nintendo Entertainment Center system came out. The first one, that was the cat's pajamas. That wasn't Atari anymore. That was the legit Super Mario Brothers, the stuff that you would play in the arcades. That's what you had.
Post video game crash, awesome. This isn't funny enough in a place that you and I have spent way too much time. This isn't burying a bunch of Atari cartridges in a freaking dump outside of Alamogordo, Texas, or New Mexico. I mean, so
I happen to have
that would be a whole
copy.
episode.
I happen to have a physical copy of E.T. the Extraterrestrial for Atari 2600. So yeah, I will show it to you.
From that land dump, though.
No, it did not.
Tax dodge. So, but I thought that was a great movie. But back to where we were going, I wanted to throw another streaming service one, and I almost forgot about it actually until it just came up on the list here. Did you see that one with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell called Spirited? Yes. It was on Apple. I enjoyed it. I thought it was for something that was a musical, and I wasn't expecting to like it as much being a musical. I thought it was very amusing with the two of them.
We actually went to the theater to see that, and it was fantastic. It was a great, again, it
might be one of the better newer ones.
I agree. Do you got the name of what was the name of that one? It
was called Spirited.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So
that was I would suggest,
because up until that one came out, I was like, okay, well, Harold and Kumar Christmas is my favorite new one at the point, because I just died laughing watching that movie and I really enjoyed it. Come on, they had a pancake robot that was like his one BFF. It was awesome.
So I'm gonna throw out a couple of them because because again, there's so much out there. There's so much to consume. Yes. So as far as in our house, ones that we watch on a regular, Four Christmases, Vince Vaughn, Reese Witherspoon, great, funny with John Favreau and Kristen Chenoweth. Chenoweth, is that how you pronounce your name? But that's a great movie. I would totally, but speaking of another one, and this one was brought up by Kate on Instagram, was Fred Claus.
Oh, I forgot about Fred Claus.
Yeah.
That was the one with Vince Vaughn as like a washed up brother.
The brother of Paul Giamatti's Santa Claus. So yeah.
That's what it was.
So that is a good one because again, it follows all of the tropes of the bumbling idiot screws things up, but then finds a way to save Christmas and there you go. But yeah, Fred Claus.
You just described Harold and Kumar Christmas too, because that's exactly what happened. Harold burnt down his Spanish wife's Christmas tree that her father brought from Mexico by accident, and they had to hurry up and get another tree before they got back from church.
All right, so I'm gonna. I
Oh.
want you to find me a picture, and I want you to put it up on the screen for the people that are actually watching this at home. Find me a picture of Turbo Man.
Turbo
Because
Man. Should just find a. Oh, I have an easy one. I have a picture that we took at the toy show.
yes,
Yeah.
we did.
We found one. It wasn't even
We-
on the hunt, but
it
we
wasn't-
found Turbo Man.
We could have got a Turbo Man action figure for $60 at
And it wasn't
Yankee
even
Clipper.
like an OG old one. It was 100% like a new Funko one. So here you go, party
Yep.
people. As,
Turbo Man.
Turbo Man.
And
So,
for those of you who don't know what we're referring to when it comes to the Turbo Man doll, you have to watch the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from 1996. That
Jingle
would
all
be
the way.
Jingle All the Way. And with the late, great Phil Hartman is in that movie.
Yes, he is, and so is Sinbad of all
And
people.
so is Sinbad, yes.
So that was a great dynamic between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad, though. Loved every minute of it. And Phil Hartman was basically just the guy that was like, well, and kind of changed as the third wheel of Arnold Schwarzenegger's BFF, right?
Yep.
I don't know if you remember this, but Conan O'Brien always used to do on a late night, they had the picture of the cutout and they had the mouth moving.
Mm-hmm.
They always used to do this time of year, he'd be doing a ripoff of Arnold because, he ran for the governor. So had plenty of material there. And they would do, he'd be talking about whatever it was. And then he goes, and don't forget, it's holiday season. Hurry up and listen to my favorite movie in the world. Get the Turbo Man. Jingle all the way. It was just gold at that point because Arnold Schwarzenegger, apparently, that's like the one thing he hadn't been in at that point as far as anything. He hadn't been in a holiday movie of any kind, right? So there you go. Holiday classic, Jingle all the way.
I will say that is the movie that has that made me remember all of the reindeer names. Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen.
There you go. Special shout out to our friends over at the Yankee Clipper. We'll have you on a future show, but very cool that you happen to have that during the Village Gate Toy Show the other day. Greatly appreciated seeing that and chatting with all of you over there. So Tommy, as we are in the last 15 minutes of our show, I'd say give me your top 3. These are your favorite holiday movies. What are you going to in the next 3 weeks as we get toward Christmas and Christmas Eve, including the party at your house?
So I'm gonna there's the top 3 that are, well, I'm gonna give you 5 because I have to give you 5. So at number 5 is White Christmas. Okay. At number 4 is one that we did not mention yet, which was Christmas with the Cranks.
That is also a very good one.
A Tim Allen movie, right? Then
correct me if I'm Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah, yes, and Dan Aykroyd. Bunch of people.
I forgot he was in that. It was a good movie.
Yep. And then I know this is very specific, but it's because it's one of the best ones, I think.
There you go.
Outside of the original, but the Santa Claus 3, The Escape Clause, which is the one with Martin Short. So that's at my number 3. Number 2 would be A Christmas Story. And then number 1, Christmas Vacation.
Not shocked by that one, Mr. Blackhawks Griswold jersey.
Wait. Let me turn around.
Yeah, there you go.
You see it?
Yep, there it is. We got you. Griswold. Now the question is, do you have your little Moose Wally World cups?
As a matter of fact, we do. We have 4 of them, and they are glass. They're not the plastic ones. So
there you go. Go big or go home.
We're high society here in Canandaigua.
Pinky out. So, all right, my top 5. My number 5 is one that we actually didn't even talk about, and it's called The Night Before, and it's with Seth Rogen, Anthony Mackie, and I forget the third gentleman, but it was a hilarious. It was just like he had a bad Christmas. It was Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That was the third one. He had a horrible Christmas when he was a kid, and they have a tradition of just getting together every Christmas, and they have a blowout night on Christmas Eve, and it's just fun with the gang, right? And it was hilarious. And another one in that same stupid mindset that I really enjoyed was called Office Christmas Party. And
I was
Jason
gonna mention that one.
Bateman, I loved that movie. It was just stupid funny. And like I said, I think you're noticing like I said, I'm trying to get out of my everyday when I'm watching movies and stuff like
Right.
that. So I usually lean in the comedy ballpark. Hence, like I said, the weird, I'm a chuckling, goofy kind of guy. So it is what it is. Number 3, I would probably say is Christmas Vacation, because I do have 2 solid ones that I've fallen in love with. And this is a very close second and third. I really do. If you haven't noticed, I enjoy the Harold and Kumar Christmas. I just think it's funny. NPH is in it again. It's all those same characters I love from 2 other great movies. It was a perfect way to end that little 3-movie franchise run with why not make it a Christmas movie? So those are the 4. And number 1 to me is 100% Elf. And we haven't actually even talked about Elf yet. And I think the fact is that I've just watched Will Ferrell for so long that I can actually see how much of that movie was just him goofing around in that costume, coming up with bits, and the fact that Jon Favreau lets him do all that kind of thing because that's what he does as a director. He just let him go loose. And the one that I know that this only spawned about 900 other things that had to happen on the set, that whole scene where he's just goofing around in Times Square apparently was him just literally goofing around in Times Square, jumping from chalk line to chalk line on the sidewalks, eating the gum off the subway rail. All that stupid crap apparently was just Will Ferrell being Will Ferrell. And you can see it when you're watching that movie that it's just 100% genuine and goofy. And I just think it's a great holiday movie to begin with. It's got everything you would talk about from all these holiday classics that we've been talking about, from the soul to the points, and just great characters galore.
No, but I 100%. I agree with you. But yeah, you're
excellent top 5 though.
that is an excellent top 5.
I like yours too. I have no
like to
arguments.
run the gambit. I like to run the gambit a little bit, but but again, we didn't mention a few of these, which like you said, Elf. You can talk about that movie all night long, and it's a quotable movie.
Son of a nutcracker.
When we were working at Harris, Andrew used to say when I would leave the office, he'd be like, "Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad knows." And I would say,
"Thanks, Mr. Narwhal."
Thanks, Mr. Narwhal. But
I think the funniest thing about that whole bit there is that it looks like it's something intimidating about to come out of the water, and then you just get this claymation animated thing going, "Hi, buddy."
And one thing that I noticed though, and I want to say I kind of totally overlooked it, was one of the little creatures. I don't know if it was.
There's your Christmas quote from Elf.
Yeah. Yep.
I stick to the 4 major food groups. Thank you very much, Mary, for putting that one in there, because that is 100% a great quote from the movie Elf. And I think that shows how infinitely quotable that movie is too, because you can think of even just one of them that sticks out to me is that he's in the emergency room holding the little cotton ball, or not the emergency room, the doctor's office, from getting the DNA test, and he's holding there, and the little girl's sitting there going next to him, and he goes, "Hi, who are you?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm Buddy. I'm a human raised by elves." And she goes, "I'm a human raised by humans." Stupid things like that were just. I can't imagine all that being written is the thing I think with that whole thing. And I think that's why it gets me in the comedy genes and everything like that, is the fact that it just probably was them all goofing around, having a great time. They made an excellent movie out of it.
Definitely. And again, I would call it a modern classic. It came out in the 2000s, I think 2005, 2007-ish area. But
yeah, I'd have to look it up, but it's definitely in that time frame. And I think the funnier thing is Jon Favreau said he wasn't going to do the movie unless Will Ferrell was going to be the elf, because he didn't think anybody else can do it. And the studio was apparently fighting him on it, saying that Will Ferrell cannot carry a movie on his own.
Right.
Gee, were they wrong? How many movies? And then, I can rattle off a bunch of my favorite comedy movies of all time that he was the dead centerpiece of. So, but that's a whole nother episode.
So I'm going through our Instagram for one of the questions that I asked, and I'm going to, because this movie came up as it's one of my favorites, and we didn't mention it that much. Is A
Okay.
Christmas Story. Christmas
Great movie.
Story, 1983. Uh, Peter Billingsley, I think his name
Either
is.
way, that movie came out to no fanfare
Oh
at
yeah, oh yeah,
all. Just
and we got a few people that on they don't they don't like it. So my wife's cousin Siobhan and her niece Cammy both say A Christmas Story is a movie that they absolutely hate. So, or I shouldn't say hate. Maybe
yeah,
hate is but they can do without that movie. And I would have to say, love it or hate it. But it is a classic now. And
yeah,
they did try to do some of these straight to DVD um,
like sequels,
sequels.
right?
Yeah, and they were not good. But then they actually made a true sequel with the adult
Ralphie.
Ralphie, and he was, and they're and it basically tells the story of him as a writer and writing the actual story of when he was a kid and getting the Red Ryder BB gun. And actually, that was a very cute sequel. And I highly suggest that one. I think it's called A Christmas Story.
Yes, I was
I
seeing that one on here on the list too. So, but
and
that point, I haven't watched that one. That's one I'm gonna find at some point here to watch.
But yeah, I highly suggest that one too. If you are a fan of that franchise, if you are a fan of that movie, I highly suggest it. So looking at our um, the ones you can do without, let's see. Mary says Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Come on, Mary, that is a classic. That's a classic.
Yeah,
And then
I can get it. I'm not gonna argue. I can see the point, but to that point, there, all things certain things become classic that certain people don't agree with. This is
right.
how it is, right?
But then Kate.
I'll make the joke that from one of my favorite stupid movies, Big Daddy, that everybody doesn't love Sticks, but they still sold 1 billion records.
So with that being said, and then Kate finished it off with Hallmark. There's too many, and flying reindeer are more realistic than those movies. So I appreciate everybody that plays along with us and answers our silly, goofy questions, because again, when you listen to us on the TNC Random Fandom, you are part of the show. You are a major part of the show.
Yes.
This is a show for fans, by fans, about fans, and we want you to be as much a part of the show as anything else. So, a commercial is done, and so do you have? So, before we go, and I know we're going to go over, because we always go over a little bit. I want to ask you, is there any serious Christmas movies that you would suggest to a group of people that may not be into the
the goofy thing that I'm all into.
The constant goofy, silly, the way that Christmas
Die Hard
is.
doesn't count as a serious movie.
Well, no.
Or one another one that my wife loves these movies, and of course they made one too. Medea's Christmas. That's not serious enough for you.
Well, I'm thinking of something that's a little bit deeper. Somebody who wants to maybe something a little bit more heady. You still get those feel goods, but it's not from a silly place.
Yeah.
It's from an actual real place.
Yeah. On that note, if I'm going for that kind of thing, I'd probably stick to the classics, like we were talking about with Miracle on 34th Street. All those kind of movies in that ballpark. The classic Hollywood movie, right? Those are the ones
Right.
I would go to. I don't watch enough of those movies that I would say would be the modern Christmas movies to be looking for anything in that ballpark. Like I said, maybe it's just the guy in me.
Right.
And sitting down for something like that. Even when I'm watching movies, I don't gauge for something that's in that serious ballpark, Tommy. It's just maybe because, like I said, maybe it's just certain things at my job I don't want to bring home and have more serious. I gotta find an action movie where things blow up, like a Bayhem movie with Transformers, or I gotta find something silly. And that's reasons why I like one I forgot to even mention in my list, and this is 100% right in that ballpark of 4 or 5 contention too. The Jim Carrey Grinch. He was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was just Jim Carrey in a Grinch suit, which was perfectly fine by me, Great.
Right.
It was
right.
just cleaned up Ace Ventura jokes, which was perfectly fine by me. He wasn't bending over and talking from his rear.
No, but he did stick a piece of mistletoe at it, and
I digress. So
the reason
we had another
why,
one here from Kate
go
that
ahead.
was thrown out here and mentioned too, that I forgot this was actually a Christmas themed movie. It was Daddy's
That's
Home
right.
too, with Will Ferrell, John Lithgow, Mel Gibson, and Marky Mark.
Mark.
So
And John Cena.
That's right. John Cena was the. I forgot John Cena was in that. Because he was like he was the new boyfriend, right?
Yeah. Or no. John Cena was the dad of Marky Mark's. Am I right?
You're thinking Mel Gibson, I think, was his dad.
No. But no, John Cena.
Cena wasn't that.
He was the dad, and Marky Mark was the stepdad. But so maybe I'm wrong.
It must have been the new boyfriend. That's the only thing I can think of. So either way, it was fun. And speaking of people that I've grown to love a lot since watching wrestling and then seeing him moving, I've loved watching John Cena. He has that wonderful awareness about himself that he can still be funny about it. You know what I mean? It's like he's just too self-aware and he's funny. And looking for a horrible movie to watch. Ricky Stenicki was 100% one of the funnier movies I've watched on Amazon lately, but it was horrible. Anyway. I
am gonna give you a couple of more serious type movies that have some comical side to them, but the comedy is not at the forefront.
Point.
Right, it's not at the forefront of everything. So one is, and oddly enough, Paul Giamatti is in a lot of these movies.
Yes, it's just one of his things, I guess. It's typecasted, huh?
This one is called The Leftovers, and it's basically a college. I think it was set in the 70s, and Paul Giamatti is a professor who gets stuck with the leftover,
like
to
students,
stay right. So the people that didn't go home for school, the professor had to stay with them, and they only had one building that was on, and then they had a cook there, and you get these, you get the feels because you have all of this. You start learning what these characters and what their motivation is, and eventually it comes to a head like it does. But it's a drama, and I would suggest that if you want something that's a little bit more heady, something that's a little bit more dramatic, and that's obviously a newer movie, I would say go for that. And then
I saw that one. It's like it's 2023. That's actually very, very new. Which explain why I haven't seen it, Tommy.
But another one is, and I know that you're gonna want to probably talk about this one if you've ever seen it. But it is a movie with Robin Williams. It was one of his very last movies, and God, now it's
I'm blanking the name. I know what you're talking about. You're segueing really quickly into the end of the show.
It is called Merry Freaking Christmas, and it's got Joe McHale in it and Robin Williams. It is one of those movies where I will just give you a little bit of it. It's when you have a family member who doesn't come home that often, and then something comes up and then they have to come home, and then all of a sudden all these old feelings start coming back, and dealing with family members that you don't necessarily agree with and you haven't talked to in years and stuff like that. Something that actually resonates with me. So I would suggest looking up Merry Freaking Christmas with Robin Williams and Joe McHale. That's you may like it.
I will. To that point, I love Robin Williams, which is, I think, are you trying to segue to the end of the show here?
I was doing the best I possibly could to throw that in there.
Points. So anyways, so Tommy hit the nail on the head. That is our episode this week, to talk all things holiday season type fun that we've been talking. And like I said, I think we nailed every Christmas movie and touched on something, at least, for everything that you could talk about this evening as far as those pieces. Before I do segue to the end here, Tommy, is there anything else you would like to mention before we do our preview for next week?
No. Just the one thing that I do, there was one question about that I threw out there to our fans about what was their the quintessential, or what term did I use? What was their holy grail toy growing up?
For when we were at the toy show.
Yes. So what was the holy grail toy that you wanted growing up? And I got let's see here. If anybody follows us, which you should follow us on the Instagram, you should see what we have. And let me get it up real quick. I know I'm this is really bad radio, whatever. This is really bad. This is really bad potting right here. So let's see. Going back. Okay, so
the original one.
There we go. Okay, so my wife's cousin, Siobhan, said the Barbie Dream House was her holy grail, but then she kind of said to us in the just the DMs, where she was like, but I was more of she got the She-Ra castle, and I knowing her the way I know her, I was like, you were more of a She-Ra than a Barbie anyways, and she knew it. So
that was a good one. I'll give you mine while you're searching for other ones. I as you know, on some of the fans have probably picked up, I was a giant Transformers nerd when I was a kid, and this was 100% the one that got away to me. We couldn't
Fortress
find it in
Maximus.
Store. Fortress Maximus. This is a toy that at the time was as tall as, like, it was, hip high on me at the time, right? So This was one of those things. This is at the time the largest Transformer that you could buy, and it probably, if you buy the box to this thing, it probably took up my desk. Mm-hmm. So to that point, Tommy, did we happen to stumble on yours while we were at the toy show the other day, or was that just one of them?
We did. And my holy grail of toys is the USS Flag aircraft carrier. The thing was 7 foot long. It was the quintessential G.I. Joe playset that you could possibly have. And I mean, look at that thing.
It wasn't a big enough toy.
That thing is awesome. Now, granted, it is not to scale by any means.
That picture is scale.
Well, no. I mean,
those children are that small next to this toy.
well, no. What I mean is that the aircraft to the aircraft carrier are not scale. The thing should be way larger. But again, I mean, that thing was huge, and any GI Joe collector, that to me, that is the end all be all. You have to have that one. So,
and there's only so many of them. There's only so many that are actually complete. That one we saw at the toy show the other day was pretty damn close to it.
Yeah,
I don't think he had the radio in it like this one kid's use, and so there's some pieces missing, and there's always the missiles missing.
Yeah.
But very, very cool stuff as far as that piece goes. I agree with you flat out. Do you have any of the other fan ones in front of you?
Yes, I do. So Historical Mary says her holy grail toy was the American Girl doll, and I would probably agree. Did you know
the OG ones were really hard to find at the time, right? And that obviously they're still a very current toy, but
But did
there's
you
a reason
know
these are in the National Museum of Play Hall of Fame of Toys here in town.
but there's a store. There's the American Girl store in like New York City that you can go to, and you can buy clothes not only for your doll, but you can buy the same outfit for yourself, and it's just like it. Seriously, it's
just
like mind
casual
boggling.
fan doesn't know. There you go. You can see, but to that point, they look to your exactly what you mentioned. The clothes are legit. You know, it's not. This isn't the Barbie clothing. No offense to Barbie.
And
Mary's listening. She says there's one in
Chicago.
Chicago.
There's one in Chicago too, my hometown. All right.
There you go, Chicago.
But yeah, that one is actually probably in Water Tower Place, which is like the big, huge mall, fancy mall in downtown Chicago. But yeah, no, it's awesome. And when you can make something that has an immersive thing, a component to it, where you can go and take your doll and we're going to have a spa day, by all means,
it's a far stretch. The American doll there versus what we were talking about last week on our obscure 90s toys with My Buddy.
Yep.
But vast difference. My Buddy was just My Buddy. But these other dolls, 100% have a million things you can customize to that point, and it's very cool. You get to immerse yourself in it.
My stepdaughter, Michaela, she has a bunch of American Girl dolls, and I'm sure that once when eventually she has children, if she'll probably bust those out and pass them on, because sometimes stuff like that, especially something that's very expensive, if you will, or you put a lot of money towards and everything, become heirlooms, and you pass those on to your kids and stuff like that. And I know some people are like, you don't pass down toys to kids. No, you kind of do. You kind of do.
The same thing with these movies we were literally just talking about that I got the pleasure of watching with my nephews because they were acting up a little bit at Thanksgiving. I got to watch Elf with them. It worked out perfectly. It started right at the same time that they were acting up a little bit. My brother's like, we don't watch a lot of TV with them or anything. We try to steer them clear of that. I'm like, Kev, it's Christmas. And I calm them down. They're watching Elf. There's nothing wrong here. And they had a great time watching it. So it worked out perfectly.
So Craig,
that passing on piece to that whole thing works out great. So
Craig,
we were going over for dessert, so it worked out even better.
So Craig, now that we have gone way over our time, please tell us what our next subject is for next week, Monday. Remember, during the month of December, we're doing our shows on Mondays, but we will go back to Sundays because I am performing with the Flint Hill Dancers at the Genesee Country Village and Museum for Yuletide in the Village. Please come and support your local museums and your awesomeness, co-host myself and the Flint Hill Dancers. Go ahead.
So on that note, being the random fandom show that we are trying to think of fun things for everybody to chit chat to, talk to, and all these kind of things. So we're trying to make sure we have some cool theme nights, but we also want to be able to highlight some of the best people that have led to giant things of fandom to begin with, period. And this gentleman that we're going to be having a dedicated show to next week, countless hours of my childhood revolve around Robin Williams, whether it's Disney movies, stand-up comedy, just everything. There's so many things from my childhood that are revolving around his shenanigans and what I've grown up to be, as far as what I think my sense of humor probably has on a base foundation, is 100% contributed to somebody like Robin Williams. So we're going to try and highlight those kind of people and talk those topics out just as much as we are going to talk about all these wonderful things that we've been talking about with pick a topic basically every week and shoot for it. But we are 100% going to talk about the life that is Robin Williams next week, Tommy. So I think it's going to be a fun show because, like I said, you cannot picture a more animated person, I think, than Robin Williams. And I think that's why it's perfect to lead off that part of our show with somebody like him.
Yep. No, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, like you said, a person who's animated, he's like a walking cartoon. And 100%. I know we're going to talk about his early days, his early career, when he got a start on Happy Days. And
Mork and Mindy, all the way through the stupid cameos on Whose Line Is It Anyway, and so on and so forth.
And here's the tasty tidbit that I mentioned Happy Days. but Mork and Mindy was a unofficial spin-off of Happy Days because
Correct.
the character of Mork was first
Do the
featured on Happy Days.
Fonz.
Yep.
So, but that's gonna be a fun one. I'm looking forward to very much talking to one of my first off favorite stand-up comedians, and like I said, just a pop culture influence. Period. So it's gonna be very fun to talk him out. So make sure, to Tommy's point, you tune in next week, Monday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern, to have fun and talk with us. Thank you very much to everybody, Mary and Kate, that jumped in, and other people that were submitting everything through our social media. I'm hoping that some of you found us this evening on outside of our other accounts and stuff like that. You saw us on Instagram. We're going to make sure we keep doing lives on Instagram and everywhere else as well. And we're going to keep expanding our little empire here as much as we can to talk with all of you that much more often. So hit us up on all social media at TC Random Fandom, and we will talk to you very much in the very near future. Cheers, everybody. Peace.
Good night, everybody.